One question we get all the time is, can I leave my pond, my waterfall, or fountains running over the winter time? And the answer is yes. But there are a few things you have to pay attention to because it's right around this time of year where you can get yourself in trouble. Let's take a look at what's going on in our pond. Okay, so it is the beginning of February, and this is one of our display ponds up front. We have a little bit more of a custom feature fountain here and our traditional waterfall rolling. This is a traditional aquascape ecosystem pond, so we have the biofalls up top and the skimmer on the other. It is very cool. You can get to see we're warming up today, so we got the remnants of some cool ice sculptures inside the waterfall as the ice forms, and watching seeing the snow and getting the sound of the water moving is always nice. Makes you think, especially on these mild days, that spring is right around the corner. However, as this pond starts to ice over, one of the things that can happen is right now the pond is full of water, everything is running strong, but it was only a few days ago that we were bitter cold and we had 2 or 3 inches of ice on top of this pond. And what starts to happen as everything starts to ice up, all that ice was water in your pond at one point. And so what happens is we'll come in and we'll walk up to the front door and people walk by and they're like, oh, it looks good, and it's running. But what's happening is the water in the pond is dropping underneath the ice. But to glance, we'll look across and the pond looks full because the ice is frozen in place. And what's happening is you have to pay attention to your skimmer. Your water level is dropping. If that skimmer runs out of water, just like in season, your pump is going to start sucking air. And the first signs is maybe our fountain here will really start just trickling, or we'll start seeing bubbles blowing up in the top of our biofalls. And so those are all the warning signs that you need to pay attention to, because right over here, you want to pay attention that if you have a skimmer, you want to open it up and really keep a close eye on the inside. So that's key. These ponds can handle freezing. They can handle the freezing temperatures, the water flowing, will keep an opening in the ice, and it's actually what I find is best for the pond. But you have to keep an eye on that skimmer and make sure it's full of water at all times. So anybody that's had a pond running over the winter knows you need to keep an opening in the ice. We want to keep oxygen flowing through that pond for the fish, and we want to make sure that everything that's in there is happy and healthy. And so they want the freezing water. We get more disease problems, and I'll talk about that in a different video. But we want to keep an opening in the ice. No better way than to keep those fountains running and to keep the waterfalls running. That way, when your pond is ready to go dormant and the fish go to sleep, all the ecology that's going on in there slows down at once. But they're not limited by oxygen levels. When we unplug pumps and shut everything off, we're killing the oxygen levels inside that pond, and we're kind of just telling Mother Nature it's time to go to sleep. But that's not always the case. So leaving the waterfalls running all winter long is extremely beneficial to your pond, and it just lets everything happen automatically. But you have to remember to have access to a garden hose specifically for those winter months. Usually, and it's right around now, February, we just went through some real cold spells in January. Here near the coast, we're lucky. I mean, a few days later, and that water typically opens right up. But if you start freezing up for more than a week, that ice is getting thicker and thicker, which is taking water out of the system in the form of ice. So you're looking at your pond, and the pond may look full of water. You're hearing the pond running, so you're thinking everything's okay. But you need to check inside your skimmer periodically to see where the water level is. When it starts getting low enough, your pump is going to start sucking air. And then all of a sudden, the water will stop flowing. And if that ground is frozen, in a matter of hours, your tubing can freeze. So even if you catch it, you go out and grab your garden hose and add some water to the system, the pump may not fire back up if you let it go overnight in bitter cold weather and frozen ground. All your tubing freezes up, and then you're not firing that thing up until spring. So keep an eye on the water level is number one. Number two is pay attention to your garden hose. So many times customers are so used to just shutting off their outdoor faucets and having a plumber come winterize everything. Or, like me, forgot the garden hose outside and it's frozen solid. So just when you're thinking about it, take your garden hoses, bring them indoors, keep them in just ensure that in the bitter cold weather, you're going to have access to just adding a few inches of water to the pond. And don't forget your detoxifier. Just because it's in season doesn't mean if you have chlorine or heavy metals in your water, it's still going to stress your fish. never mind the water temperature change. So just treat it like in season. Hit it with some detox, add some water, make sure your pond is always full of water, and just let Mother Nature do her thing. There's no reason you can't be enjoying the sound and some of the aesthetics, kind of daydreaming of spring all winter long. Just take some precautions. Thanks.